What's up, everyone? Hockey time here, back for another week of NHL Power Rankings. Gonna try to whip through this one really quick. It's 12 o'clock on, I guess, Saturday morning, this being February 17th. We're, of course, covering the games from Saturday the 10th, I guess, through Friday the 16th. But I'm going to the Stadium Series game later tonight, so I gotta get a night's sleep, pack, get going in the morning. So, gonna try to do this in one take, so apologies in advance if it's a little bit messy, a little bit slower than usual, but let's jump right into it. At number 32, the same team as last week, the Chicago Blackhawks. If it was news alone, this team might move up a spot because, of course, they get Connor Bedard back, but that was really the only good thing they had going for them this week. 0-2 on the week, 1-8-1 in their last 10. At number 31, dropping two spots, is Columbus. The Blue Jackets also go 0-2 on the week. They're 3-6-1 in their last 10, and frankly, San Jose and Anaheim both won games. This team did not. Any of these three teams could really go at number 30, 31, and 29. I can't count, whatever. So this week it belongs to Columbus. At 30, going 1-1 on the week, is San Jose. They're actually 5-3-2 in their last 10. They've had a pretty good little stretch here, at least by their standards. I think their best stretch was like when they went maybe it was 6-3-1 earlier in the year, but it's generally not been that great. This is, again, one of the better stretches they've had all year. So good for them. Not overly amazing, of course, but they will take it. At number 29, 4-5-1 in their last 10. Moving up a spot is Anaheim. Anaheim also goes 1-1 on the week. Again, just good enough above Columbus and San Jose to keep them above those two teams, but this is kind of where the basement ends, so we'll kind of move along from here. At number 28, the same spot as the week prior, is Montreal. They go 1-3 on the week. This is a pretty tough one for them. They're 3-6-1 in their last 10, but frankly, the teams in front of them just not quite doing much to bump back further. I don't think it's really fair to bump them behind these last four teams just yet. If they continue this, of course, they'll get there eventually. But for now, I just didn't think that was quite appropriate. So they get the luck of the draw this week and they stay at number 28. Number 27, same spot as last week as well. They go 1-2 on the week, 5-5 in their last 10, and that's Buffalo. Again, the same streaky back and forth stuff we've seen from Buffalo pretty much all year long. The goaltending's been a bit back and forth. They had two games where they just pepper the goalie that they played against this week, and just not able to get anything done. The latter of those two was against Anthony Stolarz. I think he faced 45 shots in their game against Florida, and they were not able to score at all. So the scoring's dried up a bit for them. The shot quantity is still up, so that's good, but obviously you need some goals if you're going to win in this week. They just weren't able to get quite enough of them. Of course, they scored 7 on LA, so again, real back and forth for Buffalo, but what else is new? Number 26, dropping two spots, and I frankly could have put them below Buffalo even, but I felt like, to be fair, I wanted to keep them just above. They're 0-3 on the week, or excuse me, 0-3-1 on the week. 2-7-1 in their last 10, and it's Arizona. They, of course, have that loss tonight to the Canes. It just wrapped up a few minutes ago. A really ugly one from Karel Vejmelka and the entire team, really. They finished with about equal shots as Carolina, but the score was like 5 or 6-1, I believe. So just been a pretty rough stretch for the Coyotes. I think this is probably a long time coming. They'd been probably overperforming for quite a while. The goaltending had been really good. Of course, Connor Ingram injured. Karel Vejmelka's numbers have been not that great really all year long, so not surprising to see him eventually have a game like this where it was just kind of a dumpster fire. But just in general, not a great week from them. Of course, if you play 4 games, you probably want to win at least 2, and they get none. So never a good case there. As a result, they drop a couple spots to number 26. Number 25, really just the beneficiary of the Coyotes having a bad week, is Washington. They go 1-1-1. They're 2-6-2 in their last 10, and it's not been a pretty stretch for them either, but felt like they were just good enough to stay above the Coyotes. Of course, they got to win this week, so that's something that can't be said for the Coyotes, and it was against a pretty good Bruins team. So credit where credit's due there, but not quite enough to get them out of this final row, for now at least. So they sit at number 25. Number 24, this team also dropping one spot. 0-1-1 on the week, 3-4-3 in their last 10, and that's the Islanders. This team just hasn't been that great since letting Patty Waugh take over as head coach. The goaltending really hasn't been good. Varlamov has looked terrible over his last few games, so not sure exactly what's going on there, but this is a team that, like the Capitals, is starting to slowly see their playoff hopes fade. They're still in it points wise, but just the way they've been playing, unless Matt Barzal goes on an absolute tear the rest of the year, I just don't see this team getting in over a lot of the other quality teams in the East. At number 23, moving up 2 spots, and this is a team that does not anymore really have playoff aspirations, but it's the Ottawa Senators. They've been on a good little run lately, 2-1-1 this week, 6-2-2 in their last 10. I think this is probably one of, if not their best streaks of play of the entire year. The scoring's been there. They, of course, have that monster game against the Leafs where the whole Ridley Gregg Morgan Riley situation happens. That was madly entertaining. Um, and just in general been playing a bit better than they really have been the entire rest of the season. So good to see from Ottawa. Again, kind of in a similar boat as Buffalo. They had such a poor start to the year that it doesn't mean too much at this point, except that it's costing them a better draft pick, really. So not great news, honestly, but nonetheless, you want to see teams like that playing well, and they're finally starting to do so. So good to see from the Sens. They move up to number 23. At number 22, dropping 1 spot despite a 2-2 record on the week, is Seattle. They're also 4-5-1 in their last 10, so wrestling with 500 right now. Similar to some of these teams in the Metro out east that are just like desperately trying to hang on to a playoff spot, or at least playoff hopes, I should say. They're not in a playoff spot as of now. There's just a lot of really good teams out west, and I don't think Seattle's going to be able to hang on. So we'll see. Joey Daccord had a couple games this week where he was just him against the world. If he can continue to do that the rest of the way, maybe they prove us wrong, but I just don't see the Seattle team making it with the strength of the rest of the Western Conference. And this week, 2-2, just not going to be quite enough to get them back above that playoff line. Number 21, dropping 2 spots, and I was kind of disappointed to see their performance this week. That's Calgary. They, of course, lose that game to San Jose 6-3 with Dustin Wolf in net. So you could say it's, him kind of warming up to the NHL, and it's not really a reflection of the Flames. But at the end of the day, you're an NHL team playing in front of that goalie. You want to support them and make sure they're not facing the quality chances that are going to end up in the back of the net. I know there were a couple of goals he probably wants back from that game, but either way, it really doesn't matter who's in net for you. If you're losing to San Jose, unless you're one of Columbus, Chicago, or Anaheim, it's really not a great look. So not a great week for the Flames because of that alone. They're also 4-6 in their last 10, so it's been a bit of a nosedive from that stretch they were on just a couple weeks back where they were like 7-3 or 7-2-1 or something like that. So we'll see if the Flames can pick it back up. But again, much like Seattle, they are desperately hanging on for a playoff spot, and they're kind of in a weird spot where they don't know if they want to sell off their assets or hang on to them and try to acquire more. So we'll see what the Flames do, but for now, they sit at number 21. At number 20, moving up a couple spots, is Minnesota. Minnesota goes 2-0 on the week, 7-3-0 in their last 10. This is one of those teams that is kind of diminishing the hopes of playoffs for Calgary and Seattle because this is a roster that frankly has a good bit of talent. The goaltending has warmed up quite a bit. The defense has looked pretty good. They're battling through injuries, and it's really not mattering, at least too much for now. So great to see from the Wild. This is one of those teams that I definitely had making the playoffs, really in Winnipeg's spot. But of course, we've seen what Winnipeg's done all year. So we'll see if the Wild can kind of continue this momentum and stretch themselves into the playoffs. But again, it's going to be a pretty tight race. So we'll see if they're able to do so. At number 19, moving up 1 spot, largely thanks to the team ahead of them, and then of course the teams behind them, is Los Angeles. They go 2-1 on the week. They're still 4-5-1, or excuse me, 4-4-2 in their last 10. They have a great game against Edmonton. They lay a stinker against the Buffalo Sabres, and then they go and beat the Jersey Devils. So if you can figure out what's going on with them, go ahead, because I sure as hell can't. But it's a better week than the ones they've been having the last 2 or 3 weeks, so that's good news, I guess. But still got to continue to pick it up. They're in a wild card spot as of now, but again, plenty of teams like the Wild, like the Flames, like Seattle, all desperately trying to grab that spot. So no room for error here for LA. They got to keep it moving, but this is a step in the right direction for sure. They move up a spot to number 19. At number 18, not a good week. 1-2, 3-6-1 in their last 10, and that's Nashville. And it was capped off by a smacking at the hands of the Dallas Stars with that 9-2 loss the other night. One of, if not their worst losses of the season. I mean, that's up there with the 2-10 spots that got put on San Jose. It's probably the third worst loss for any team the entire year. The goaltending just hasn't really been there. The scoring has dried up quite a bit. All that momentum they had really a month and a half ago is gone at this point. Like, they're not in a playoff spot. Again, everything kind of going wrong for them, and then you lay an egg like that at home, no less, and then you have Matt Duchene singing at a bar on Broadway right after the game. So it's like salt in the wound, terrible game. Everything that could have went wrong. Just not good from Nashville. I thought about dropping them more than this, but I just didn't think it was right to put them below LA just yet. But again, if this continues next week, definitely not out of the realm of possibility. At number 17, also dropping one spot, 1 and 2 on the week, is Pittsburgh. Same old back and forth stuff we have with Pittsburgh every single week. This week, 1 and 2, 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10. They can figure out some consistency. Maybe they make the playoffs at this rate. I just don't know if that's happening. They have not found it all year. And who am I to say they're going to find it in the last, 2 months of the season? I don't know. Could be wrong, but I just don't like what I've seen from them. Top half of the rankings, number 16, dropping one spot, is Jersey. They did go 2-1-1 on the week, so not really at fault of their own. There's one team that had a very good week that has leapfrogged them, and we'll go right into that because it is St. Louis, or excuse me, Detroit is actually at number 15. Spoiler alert there, I'm not going back. Detroit 1-2 on the week, 5-4-1 in their last 10. Bit of back and forth. I didn't want to drop them too much, and that's why they're still ahead of New Jersey. They played Vancouver twice this week and Edmonton once, so didn't really want to punish them for losing to two of the hotter teams in the league right now, but they still had to drop at least a spot because, again, moving up a lot this week. 4 spots is St. Louis. Surprise, surprise. Am I right? 3-1 on the week, and they're 8-2-0 in their last 10. They have been firing on all cylinders. The goaltending has been very good. The scoring has been there in droves. The defense has looked really solid. Both Binnington and Hofer have looked really good. I think Hofer's probably been the better of the two. But nonetheless, it's been very, very impressive from St. Louis. I'm curious to see if they can keep this up long term. This is another team that I did not see getting into the mix in the playoffs, but here they are right now. I think they sit in a wild card spot. So we'll see if they're able to hang on to it. Again, it's going to be a fascinating race at the end of the season, especially in the West. And this team is one of the reasons. So for now, St. Louis up 4 spots to number 14. Number 13, and this team's the same spot they were at last week, is Toronto. They go 2-1 on the week. They're 7-3-0 in their last 10. And it's kind of a weird team, right? I feel like part of this, excuse me, um, is because Twitter just loves to ramble and rant, pick on them all the time, whether they're winning or losing. So it always feels like there's bad news around the Leafs, but 2-1 on the week, 7-3-0 in their last 10. Not really all too shabby at all. They are, of course, battling all these injuries. I think all of Marner, Tavares, or I guess both just Marner and Tavares were back in their most recent game, had a very good one against Philadelphia. We'll see if they can keep that up. The Leafs are a team I've never really been worried about all year. The goaltending, of course, was a pretty big issue, but Samsonov seems to have settled back into his role. I don't know whether or not he'll continue to be starting once Joseph Woll's back. He was practicing the other day, so we'll see what the deal is there, but for now, Toronto with a perfectly fine week. They stay put at number 13. Number 12, dropping a spot despite a 2-0-1 record, is Philly. And this is a weird one, right? 2-1 on the week, 4-5-1 in their last 10. But just a lot of movement in this kind of like middle from 12 to 6. And they kind of just got bumped because of all of that. Again, not really in any fault of their own. The week they had was good. This last stretch has not been the best from them, but we'll see if they can continue this momentum into the Stadium Series game later tonight, though. Go Devils, for me at least. But yeah, it's been a good week from Philly. I didn't like dropping them one spot. I never really like dropping teams when they have records like this, but sometimes it has to happen. And for this week, it ends up being Philly that's the victim of that trend. At number 11, dropping 3 spots, is Colorado. The Avs are 1-2 on the week and 4-5-1 in their last 10. One of their worst stretches of the season, sparing earlier in the year when it looked like Georgiev was just completely burnt out. Since the All-Star break, they just have not been the same team that they were prior to it. Nate McKinnon has slowed down a bit. The scoring in general has slowed down a bit. The goaltending has not been as good. Like everything that was going pretty well for them prior to the break seems to have just flipped off. So we'll see if they can kind of right that ship. Again, not overly worried about this team. I think they still sit second in the Central, and it's really like those 3 teams at the top, and then the 4 teams in the middle, and then Chicago in the Central. So I don't see the Avs dropping out of that top tier, but they're definitely the bottom of the 3, at least right now. And as a result, they drop a couple spots to number 11. Number 10, another Central team dropping 1 spot, is Winnipeg, despite going 2-0 this week. 4-5-1 in their last 10, and there's really just 2 teams that had really solid weeks that bumped them down. So much like Philadelphia, no real fault of their own here, but We'll move right along because the team at number 9 that bumps them down is Tampa Bay. They go 3-0 on the week, and they're 7-3-0 in their last 10. Vasilevsky is back. This team in general is back, frankly. I mean, Nikita Kucherov's been back all year, but they've been firing on all cylinders, much like St. Louis has. Um, I think I mentioned it last week or maybe 2 weeks ago in the rankings. Like, this is just a team that no matter who their depth pieces are, you can't count out when you have the likes of Hedman, Point, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, like all of these pieces, Stamkos. How am I forgetting Stamkos? Even with Mikhail Sergachev out, it just has not mattered. This team's looked really, really good. Um, so we'll see if they can keep it up. I anticipate them making it in the playoffs. I know there were some people questioning whether or not that would be the case this year. For a while, it looked like they may not, but I think it's safe to say they're pretty much back. They've looked fantastic of late, and because of that, they move up a few spots to number 9. Um, Number 8 into the top section here, moving up 2 spots. 2-0 on the week are the New York Rangers. Same deal, Shesterkin and Quick both playing really, really well right now. Shesterkin had a little rough patch there before, and then I think the 1 or 2 games after the break, but he's been fantastic now. The Rangers, again, 2-0 on the week, 7-2-1 in their last 10. Everything clicking for them, much like it is for Tampa Bay. They still sit first in the Metro despite some of the movement that they've had in these rankings throughout the course of the year. And unless Carolina goes on a really, really good streak and they continue to kind of putter back and forth on wins and losses, I don't see Carolina catching them. So good stuff from the Rangers in general. They move up a couple spots to number 8. And in case I didn't mention it, it was 2 spots that they moved up. At number 7, dropping 1 spot, going just 0-1 on the week. I didn't realize they had only played 1 game, but here we are. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10, but it's Vegas. They, of course, didn't play this week, so kind of hard to, or they played, but they lost the 1 game. Hard to keep them at 6 when they only have 1 game and they lose it. I don't know. Sorry, Vegas fans. I don't have a lot of wiggle room on this one because at number 6, moving up a spot, they go 2-1-0 on the week. They're 6-4-0 in their last 10, and it's Carolina. They beat the crap out of the Coyotes tonight, and Vegas didn't beat the crap out of anybody. So my hands are kind of tied on this one. They move up just to 1 spot, flip flopping with Vegas at 7-6. At number 5, moving down 2 spots with a bit of a rough week, 0-2-1, 5-4-1 in their last 10 after their dismantling of Vancouver. It's been a bit of a rough stretch for Boston. Got outdueled the other night in net, which is a rarity for either Swayman or Allmark. And just in general, one of their worst weeks of the year, I think. I think the Bruins fans that were in my comments earlier in the year saying they weren't playing all that well are probably going to be back on that camp this week. So I don't think I'm going to have too much disagreement on this. I don't think they deserve to be much lower than this. I still think they're one of the better teams in the league, and they're, of course, still first, I think, in the Atlantic Division. They actually might be tied now. I'd have to go check. But nonetheless, the Bruins still playing very good hockey, just a rough week. It's going to happen. They drop a couple spots to number 5. Excuse me. At number 4, also dropping a few spots in kind of a similar boat. They go 1-2 on the week. They're 7-3-0 in their last 10, and that's Edmonton. A very weird back and forth week. They have the LA game. They beat Detroit like 8-4, and then they lose to St. Louis, who has, in fairness, been playing pretty well, but just a weird back and forth week for Edmonton. It was not realistic that they were going to stay on that streak forever. Of course, they don't. They're going to have some games that they lose that they probably shouldn't against teams that they probably shouldn't lose to, but it is what it is. It's a long season, 82 games. You're going to have a couple duds. It wasn't even really a dud this week against St. Louis. Again, they've been playing really well. Just kind of got outplayed. It's going to happen. So, a couple spots of a bump for Edmonton down to number 4. Number 3, and I had a tough time deciding which of these teams belonged at 3 and 2, but both 3-0 on the week. One's 8-1-1 over their last 10. The other's 8-2-0 over their last 10. So number 3 went to Dallas. Again, 8-1-1 in their last 10. They've just been playing fantastic hockey, and then they capped the week off with, again, the pounding of the Nashville Predators. Again, 9-2 was the final of that game. Matt Duchene deserved to go sing and play his guitar at Tootsie's Bar on Broadway. I don't know what happened in Nashville, but Dallas, of course, played very well in that one too, and they've been playing very well. Jake Ottinger, since the All-Star game, has looked much better than he did before it. Of course, he was battling injuries on and off, so good to see him back healthy, playing well. Wedgwood played well in the game he played this week also. The scoring, as it has been kind of all year for them, is just there from every line. So they continue to play really well. They move up a couple spots to number 3. Number 2, also 3-0-0, 8-2-0 in their last 10, as I mentioned, is Florida. And this team, maybe could make an argument for number one, but the team at one that's been there for a while, you guys saw this coming. We'll talk about Florida again after, but it's Vancouver. 3-0-1 in their last 10, 7-1 or 3-1 on the week, 7-0-1, 7-1-2. Holy smokes! In their last 10, I could not quite justify putting Florida above them. Really, all three of these teams in the top three, you can make an argument for being number one. I know I have Dallas higher than probably a lot of other people, and I have kind of all year, but I think their play as of late has been really good, as has Florida's, as has Vancouver's. The goaltending specifically in Florida and in Vancouver has been phenomenal lately, at least from their starters. Like Demko has been on a mission. Um, Even Anthony Stolarz again, that game against Buffalo, he stopped 45 shots. Like, that's ridiculous. I don't care if you're playing Buffalo, Arizona, and like, it doesn't matter. 45 shots is crazy. He gets it done. And then, of course, Jake Ottinger has been Jake Ottinger, as I mentioned, since the All Star break. So, this is what we got for the rankings as of January 7th or February 17th. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Let me know which teams I have too high and too low, and let me know why I've had Vancouver at number one for longer than most of you would probably like. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe as well if you don't mind. It is free. Hopefully, you guys can find me at the very top of MetLife Stadium tomorrow for the Stadium Series game. Enjoy it, and we'll talk to you guys probably in the morning for the recap of the one game between Carolina and Arizona, and then I think 13 games on Saturday, including that Stadium Series game. Thanks as always for watching. We'll talk to you guys soon.